Hi, I'm Brandon, an applications engineer here at Platypus. We're very excited to be showcasing the new capabilities within Materialise Magics. It is a program that we use here every single day, so if you have any questions after the webinar, please give us a call.
Hi everybody, and welcome to our webinar, What's New in Magics. Today I have the pleasure to sit here with my most fantastic colleagues, Egwin, Tem, and Lawrence. So let me first quickly introduce you to Egwin, who is the product line manager of the Magics 3D Print Suite. Hi, hi Egwin, welcome. Sorry.
Hello, Lieve, and also from my side, a warm welcome. I am Egwin Bovijn, so as Lieve mentioned, the product manager of Magics, and with Materialise for more than 3 years. It's great to see all of you here with so many present today.
Okay, so our next person who I'd like to introduce is Lawrence. He's one of our more senior application engineer with a passion for training. So welcome, Lawrence.
Thank you, Lieve. Indeed, I am the sales engineering team lead for the EMEA region, and today I'm excited to show you what the latest release of Magics has to offer, both in terms of product features, but as well for the integrations. Unfortunately, I won't have enough time to show you everything though, but at the end of the session, we will do a call to action and share how you can join our Magics update training, where I would love to delve even further into detail with you all.
Okay, that's noted, Lawrence. And then last but not least, also Tem Bertels is joining us, and Tem is our product line manager of CoEM. Welcome, Tem.
Thank you. I'm happy to tell you more about that a bit later today.
Okay, so I'm Lieve Boeykens, and I'm your host and moderator for today. I'm very excited for this session, so let's take a quick look at the agenda. So we will start with our star Magics, and we will go a bit more in what we have improved for the data and build preppers. Next, there are some other topics that we will cover as well, and that's linked to integrations that we've made with other modules and products. So we will speak about traceability, connectivity, automation. So there is a chat box in the application, so please use that to post any question you would like to ask us related to the topic at hand, of course. We will try to pick up as many as possible at the end. If not, we will come back to you via email. If you would have some technical issues, you can also put these questions there, and our technical staff will be do their best to help you out. Just a note, we will be recording this session as well, and you will get a hyperlink to that recording afterwards as well, if you would like to share it with other colleagues who maybe could not join us today. I would also recommend you to keep your smartphone in the neighborhood, because we will be flashing some easy QR codes to you. So without further ado, we are ready to go. So welcome again. As I said, I'm very excited. I hope with this session, at the end, you will all share my enthusiasm. But before we go into the details of Magics, Egwin, I would like to start with you. Just how would you sum the full release in just a couple of words? What would those be?
Yeah, so Lieve, our new release is all about customer centricity, automation, connectivity, and traceability, but also the overall improvements in Magics. So automation is done via scripting, connectivity via the deep integration of CoEM and our new machine manager, and traceability due to that integration, providing you a visual overview of all the revisions that you've done on your parts, your platforms, by who, by when, and so on.
Okay, I would like to pick in on the first two words that you mentioned is the customer centricity. So can you just also explain the audience a bit, like how you as a product manager interact with our customers? How did you get all the input for our product and product improvements?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So with the launch of Magics 26 last year, we introduced some ambitious new features and workflows. But people clearly saw the benefits of moving to a hybrid kernel from mesh only to also having VREPs available. And out of that move, we received a lot of feedback from our users because we changed quite some significant topics. And since customer centricity is really at the core of our development team, at Magics, we also made it our mission to incorporate as much feedback as possible in this release of Magics. So I do want to give you some examples on how we gather all that feedback to you on how we incorporate this into our software. So what you can see here in this graph that we will be showing are the different sources of direct feedback that we get from you, the attendees, the users of Magics. This is on top of the normal development, by the way. So the only work items that are coming directly from you, the user. We have official programs during the testing phase, and I see a lot of familiar faces here today as well that were part of the alpha and beta programs as well, and there the customers can enroll to. Those are the blue bars. Next to that, we also gather a lot of feedback from our service and support team via tickets that our customers create. Those are the red bars. That can go from feature requests to bug to customers that customers found in our software. And we also gather direct feedback via the Net Promoter Score. So those are NPS surveys. I'm sure that a lot of people that are using our software have seen those survey requests. Here we try to gather as much as actual feedback as possible, and so that we can reach out to you directly to follow up. That way, they get into direct contact with our product development team. The gray bars show our presence at events like AMUG in the US, Forum Next in Germany, Rapid in Chicago, and also our customer advisory boards where we have ideation sessions and roadmap sessions together with the product team. So if you want to be part of that, let me know, and we can make sure that you have a seat at the table.
Okay, and maybe to make it a bit more tangible, Edwin, can you give some examples of the type of feedback that we have received and how you have dealt with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that comes to mind is our new part in platform scenes. So we have introduced this way of new focused working in Magics 26 and made some significant productivity improvements based directly on your feedback as well as a customer. So to give you some examples, you can now build your own custom environments based on your preferences via personalized templates. Are you mainly working with platforms? Are you build prepped? So you can focus now your workflow around your machines. But are you more focusing on parts as a data prepper? You can build your environments around your part scenes with CAD tools, mesh tools, and so on. What we also did is introduce an edit mode on platform scenes. We added e-stage point editing for SLA users, and we made significant performance improvements along the way, and also added some significant new tools for CADs like CAD native primitives and many more.
Okay, so so you just mentioned like with the CAD tools, and so we started introducing our Magics 26. That was our first hybrid solution where we have BREP and mesh editing versus BREP editing and all the CAD tools. Can you just have a quick recap on why did you decide to make Magics hybrid? And then have you further expanded on that in this version?
Yeah, correct. So with the introduction of last year, we not only provided new tools and technology to work on BREP, but also a new way of enhancing the communication between design teams and data preppers. So that way you can keep collaborating together in your native CAD environment and your native CAD format, and also work that way faster with a lot lighter data. Well, the best way to show this actually is via a demo. But what I can already tell you is I have one absolute favorite feature. All the users here, and they call it also the machining operations, might want to pay extra attention now because we have added defeaturing in Magics on BREP, and it's very powerful. So Laurens, maybe you can show our audience these new features.
Well, certainly, I'd love to showcase some of the new functionality in Magics. Let's actually start with our home screen. And as Edwin has mentioned, handling parametric file formats in Magics has become a lot easier over the past few years. With the launch of Magics 27, we built further on that ease of use, bringing some additional BREP editing improvements. As you may already know, from Magics 26 onwards, you have the ability to import step files directly in Magics without the need for the All Imports module. So I'll demonstrate that quickly here by dragging these two BREP files into our home screen. By the way, the drag and drop functionality, which I will showcase at different stages through the demos today, is supported across any scene or mode in Magics, allowing you to drag your files anywhere to get started immediately. Before we take a look at the changes that we've made to the BREP editing, let's take a look at why it's actually useful in the first place to actually edit on a BREP level. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this bracket that I have and immediately do a conversion to mesh. You may notice here we also have additional control over the surface accuracy and the tolerance when we do that conversion, and I'll show another example of that in a moment as well. However, what I will do with this part is I will quickly turn it transparent, and you'll see if I were to perform an editing operation on my mesh level, which you will also be able to differentiate from the BREP scene by the different icon in front, but you'll see that come back as well in a later stage. You'll see if I hollow out my part, this can introduce some inaccuracies into my mesh, right? Because I'm working on my triangular mesh when I'm working in the mesh part scene. If I were to compare that with the BREP part scene here, where I would be able to work with my parametric surfaces, you'll see if I were to perform the same operation, that I will be able to do that same operation with a higher level of accuracy and with a more performant result, as we can do these operations quite a bit quicker, especially on complex models. However, nothing new here thus far, so let's actually take a look at what is effectively new within Magics 27 when it comes to BREP editing. Here you can see a part of an assembly. You can see this is a parametric file, and we would like to do some simple editing. Let's start with a feature some of you are already familiar with. For instance, the ability that we have to extrude surfaces of our part. I'll just quickly zoom in here and select the curvature of my part so that we can specify the direction in which we'd like to extrude. And then you can see we can easily create additional parametric surfaces in the BREP editing mode. However, in terms of new features, we have now, as Egwin mentioned as well, added the ability to defeature your parts as well. For instance, through the use of the delete face option, we can simply specify which surfaces we would like to, in this case, delete. And you can also specify in which method you would like to heal those surfaces. So in this case, I can, for instance, choose to cap those surfaces. And in case I would, for instance, turn on my transparency, you can see that this now is a solid volume. I disable my transparency once again. Let's take a look at the other side here. And here we can, for instance, show another example with a new feature added in Magics 27, which is the ability for you to taper your faces specified according to the angle that you enter here in the command prompt. So you can see this would allow us to perform the taper face operation according to a specified angle. Another cool addition within the BREP part scene, from my opinion at least, is the ability for us to now cut our parts also in the active BREP scene based on a specified multi-section. On the sections, you also have the ability now in the BREP part scene to set up your own custom multi-sections and basically perform the operations with the preferred accuracy and placement. And in this case, you'll see if I perform this operation, we now have two individual parts. Another cool addition within the BREP editing mode is the fact that you can now also make use of some of the measurements tools, such as, for instance, the ability to do a measurement on the thickness of your parts. So this is a quick example on some of the BREP changes within Magics 27. However, that's not the only thing that has changed. So let's go ahead and jump back to that mesh conversion here. And you can see I can specify that I want to convert my current BREP scene to a mesh scene according to a specified accuracy. So one of the feedback that we got from our users in 26 as we were doing the conversion in the background, that they would like to exert more control. So we have listened to that feedback. And this is one of the examples in which we have basically adjusted the way that Magics works according to the preferences of our users. Once I have converted my BREP part scene to a mesh, you'll see that now we will be working on parts on a triangular mesh level rather than using the parametric surfaces. And this still gives us the ability to, of course, use any additional editing features on a mesh level, such as, for instance, the ability to, for instance, add some perforations, add a label, or some other operations. That's not going to be a focus of this part of the demo. So in this case, I'm actually simply going to use the following button here to add my parts to a new platform scene. You'll see the machine that I use here come back in a later stage, at which point I will give a little bit more explanation about that. But what I do want to point out is that you can see quite clearly here, according to the different icons, that there is a difference between the BREP part scene, the mesh scene, and the machine scene. As Egwin mentioned in the beginning, you could even set up your own templates so that when you get started, you can have any of the scenes you would like to use for your default operations up and ready to go for you. In this example, we have a part of an assembly, and we would like to also showcase how we can use some other parts within this assembly. I've actually prepared a part of this build already. And to showcase the drag and drop, I'm simply going to drag those parts in here as well. And you can see I can immediately copy over those parts, carrying over their placement and their support information as well. So in this case, I would simply need to reverse the selection and do a quick automatic placement for the parts that I would like to place on the build platform as well. And in this case, I have selected all the parts, I think, in the specified ones, so it might delete some supports. But in any case, you can see we can add the parts that we were working on to the build platform, which brings me to the next part that Edwin also mentioned, is that we now have some different ways for you to be able to edit your parts. Let's say that I really need to focus on this specific part and I need to look at it closely. Then I could go into my part scene in the edit mode, which allows me to only look at the current part and allows me to perform a quick operation, such as, for instance, if I want to go ahead and apply a fillet on the curvature over here, I can go ahead and I can apply a fillet as such. Afterwards, if I were to close my part scene, you'll see that this is now also applied on my platform level. My supports were removed as the geometry of my part was changed, but I'm able to continue with my build here. However, according to feedback from our users, it is useful for you to also be able to edit your parts while keeping into account the parts neighboring the current part, as well as being able to take into account, let's say, some of the placement or general machine information. And this is now feasible simply by selecting any of the parts you would like to edit on, or any of them in general, and entering the edit mode, at which point you will be able to use any of the edit functionality that you have grown accustomed to in previous releases of Magics, while simultaneously still keeping the view on the platform level and the neighboring parts, allowing you to use all the functionality here. And this really enables you to be productive in all the different modes that you may find yourself within Magics, as you will have access to all of the relevant tools front and center. So this is really something that we will try to continue building upon further within development of Magics 27, namely focusing on what's truly important to us as Materialise, enabling our customers to be highly successful and productive regardless of which scene they might find themselves in or which operation they need to perform. And that torch will continue to carry forward. And speaking of which, it's probably time for me to pass my torch back to Lieve as well, who I know is very passionate about our customer needs as well.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. It's great to see how the team has integrated all the feedback, and how we have listened. But Edwin, I can imagine that there might be other users in the audience who would like to know how they can reach you. So how can they reach out to you?
Well, that's very easy. So they can always contact me directly via email or connect via LinkedIn, for example. This gives you direct access to the development team as well. And we're always open for a chat about your experience using Magics or any suggestions. So you can directly contact us via my email address.
Yep. So, okay, and that is, of course, more with suggestions. If you have issues with your software and need help on that, please keep on using our support team. They are there like that. But if you want to further have a more decent talk on product vision and so on, Edwin, he's a very approachable guy. He doesn't bite. So you find his contact details here. So moving on, I would like to wrap up Magics for here now. In the agenda, we also had that point, traceability. And I know, well, often when I'm reading about our industry, there is like a hot topic coming back, and that's the digital thread. But can you just explain a bit for our audience, like what is meant with that digital thread? And is there anything in Magics that support that as well?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So for decades, traceability has been a key concern for manufacturers and also the end customers alike. So traceability describes actually the process which can be used to record everything about a part or a component that is being manufactured. Traceability and connectivity are key in achieving the dream or the goal of the digital thread. The digital thread is an integrated view of everything about an asset throughout its life cycle that enables improved communication and collaboration. Now, the digital thread is often considered as like the holy grail of manufacturing. CO-AM is the operating system for that additive manufacturing on your shop floor, and Magics will be at the core of that operating system for additive manufacturing, breaking down all the silos that existed in the past with standalone data, build prep tools, and also MES tools, breaking the end-to-end connectivity that you had in the past. So for that, and to tell you more, we have invited Tim Beckles, our product manager for CO-AM, who will tell you more about this as well.
Thank you, Edwin. So Materialise has always had the vision of providing its customers with software products and services required to cover the entire 3D printing process from order entry to part delivery. So based on our own production experience and the needs of our customers, so which we've seen evolve over the last 3 decades, we came to the conclusion that the CO-AM platform is the next logical step in this endeavor. So CO-AM offers an open platform which manages additive manufacturing production processes more efficiently. It gives manufacturers cloud-based access to the full range of Materialise software tools to allow them to plan, manage, and optimize every stage of the additive manufacturing operations. So you can think of CO-AM as having 4 main value drivers. The first one is that by having all of the steps of the manufacturing process in one platform, the solution allows us to streamline this process across the entire production lifecycle. Secondly, it helps customers and users optimize and automate work preparation for AM in a holistic manner. Thirdly, it gives the foundation as well as the tools that are needed to optimize the quality and the repeatability of additive manufacturing. And finally, thanks to the way that the platform is designed, it offers the possibility to learn and to adapt based and thanks to the wealth of data that we collect along the different applications. So to achieve this, we need to ensure that CO-AM is an open platform. So that is one of our main drivers. And so we want to make sure that it not only allows us to run Materialise software and Materialise add-on apps, but that it can also be opened up to external partners and even to customers who wish to develop and integrate additional solutions in order to enrich the flows and the possibilities of the platform. CO-AM is also an enterprise software system in the sense that it respects the expectations of our customers when it comes to security, performance, stability, configurability, etc. And then finally, having a good solution and a good product is one thing, but we also have the professional services that you would need potentially to support our customers and to help them reach the full potential of their additive manufacturing process.
Yeah, and that's why we have invested so much in the deep integration of Magics in CO-AM. So as you mentioned, Tim, the way the platform is designed, it offers the possibility to learn and adapt based on the data that is provided along the way. And one of those core applications is, of course, Magics. These kind of integrations provide our customers with a clear value that comes out of that, and that's the traceability. Having that digital thread for additive manufacturing and providing that visual overview on the changes is not just a niche feature for large manufacturers chasing that holy grail. Gone are the days that also as a service provider, you could just print a part for your customers and just be done with it. Especially when you're serving specific regulated markets such as aerospace and medical, there the end customer demands full transparency on what happened with the part. What specific changes have we made to make that part printable, but also internally for quality checks, it is important to know when a part failed and why that happened. Was it due to certain design changes that you have done, wrong orientation, and so on? All this becomes visible due to the integration of Magics and CO-AM. But maybe Lawrence, can you show the audience how it looks like?
Yes, Egwin, definitely. So as Stem already mentioned, CO-AM allows us to streamline the process across the entire production lifecycle. So let's just take a look at a practical example to make that a little bit more tangible. Here you should be able to see the CO-AM environment in which I've set up an order from a customer called Egwin at Materialise that ordered some parts for us. He ordered some parts as part of an assembly, but there was already some communication around these parts beforehand. So imagine first that I'm a data prepper and I receive a request from my customer via CO-AM, and I'm able to retrieve all of the relevant information here. For instance, in which technology my part will be printed, as you can see that quite easily here on the parts overview, what their dimensions are, but I can also access additional information related to requests or requirements. So let's take a look at our message history first, where we can see that there would be a need for a design change on the given part. I might need to quickly go back to the main overview. Hang on with me, bear with me for a second, and then we'll be right there. And if we go back to our message tab, we should be able to see the message show up here that we would need to make some changes to design and to ensure the printability. And if we go to our collaborate tab, you'll see here that we actually have some tasks set up already to be performed on this specific part. There are a number of operations that we would need to perform on a number of places of the part. And some of that work has already begun, but there is still an additional step that we would need to perform. So from CO-AM, because it's not a CO-AM demo, I want to mostly focus today on the integration with Magics. We are able to access our file tree revision, in which we can see on the same part that we were using in the previous demo, that there were a number of editing operations already performed. Furthermore, I can go to any of the current steps in the process, and I can see here clearly which of those operations already were performed. We've extruded the base of our part, performed the fillet operation, a chamfer, we've cut our parts in two. But at this stage, we would like to perform an additional design iteration. So we're going to go ahead and open that part from CO-AM directly into Magics, so that we can see how we would be able to both change the design of the part to ensure the printability, and at the same time also synchronize that information back to CO-AM. Fortunately, I do need to log in quickly again in the Materialise Machine Manager, which is something we'll be showing in the next demo. Either way, we can see this part here. We see that we already have applied the extrusion, we have applied the chamfer at the bottom, but perhaps as a quick example, we want to go ahead and also perform a fillet operation here near the top of our part. Then we can go ahead, maybe we'll specify the radius to be 1 in this case, and go ahead and make a design change. As soon as we have made a design change, you'll see that the icon here on the top allows me also to save my parts back to CO-AM. So by doing that, it will synchronize that information back. And the next time that we want to proceed with that order, it will take the latest version of any of the files which have been requested basically by the requester to be printed. So if I now go ahead and close Magics, I don't need to save the project. I will simply need to quickly refresh the active page, and then we should be able to see in just a moment here that we have an additional branch showing up for that second copy of the part in which we should see the change performed. So if I go back here to my file tree view, you can see we now have this additional change here on our part, where we can actually see on the top view that now we have this fillet that has also been applied there. You can see more clear changes as well, dependent on which changes have been performed on the part. For instance, here you can see an example where I have, it's a bit tricky with the zoom, but where I've applied a label with the webinar demo tag on it. So as you can see, as you continue working on your parts, at any point you could also change which is the active iteration, and you can branch further from there, but you have a clear overview on what happened with the parts, and you can still open any of the previous copies if you need to go back to any of those stages. Imagine we have made some changes to our part and we're ready to proceed with it. Then of course, the next step, once the other parts have been reviewed and you're ready to proceed with the order, would be to go ahead and schedule in that order. By CO-AM, we can easily go ahead and access any of our machines available in our machine park, as well as access a list of parts that would still need to be printed. So you can see here, if I go to my option to add my job, we will be able to see the parts on the top of the list here, which are coming from our, I will first actually need to make a small change here on the scheduled build, I believe. Yes, so my apologies, I will quickly delete our current build so that we can go ahead and proceed with the parts that we want to add to the new build, so that you see that I'm not using an existing build, but I can show you that it works quite seamlessly. So if I go ahead and add a job here, then we'll see on the top of the list that we have the parts here that we would like to go ahead and prepare our build for. So at this stage, I am moving to the stage where I would like to open up these parts in Magics, and I would like to proceed with preparing my build job. I'm just going to quickly give this a name, for instance, the webinar demo. I am able to also fill in additional information here, for instance, how long I think my build job is going to last, when I would like to start it, and even further information in terms of how I want to do the traceability for the material batch number, which technician I'm going to assign. I'm going to skip past some of these things for now. I'm just going to go ahead and save my job so that we'll see in our overview for the specific machine that we're preparing this job for, namely the EOS M290, we will now have an additional entry here into our schedule overview. And from here, we would be able to open these parts directly into Magics. So as these parts are currently being prepared for the build, there will not be any support structures or other actions performed with them yet, but you will see in just a moment that we can open them up in the specified platform. So as we are staging right now for the EOS M290 machine, this machine will already be loaded. And as we only currently have one as a quantity for each of these parts, we will have a single copy of these parts loaded. But if you would have multiple copies or more parts, basically any of the builds or parts that you've added to the current build will be set up for you so that you can immediately go ahead and proceed with doing your automatic placement, doing your orientation adjustments, and doing the general actions that you would normally go through to prepare your build. You can see we have the parts of our assembly, and I could go ahead, in this case, if I wanted to, for instance, do a quick automatic placement action to place them on the build plate. And then I could go ahead and proceed with the orientation, the support generation, and so on and so forth. That's not really the focus of this demo, but what you would see is that here, similarly as with uploading my individual part to CO-AM, I'm also able to save that platform back to CO-AM. So I'm not doing the operation now to save some time, but at that stage, basically, that information will be embedded within the current build that's scheduled here, and we will be able to use both the QR code to retrieve any relevant information, as well as retrieve that information in our available machine platforms, where we can immediately see all of the builds that we have staged and open those obviously also directly in Magics if preferred. At this stage, I'm not going to delve too much further in CO-AM, but I'm sure that if you guys have questions, that Tim and my colleagues would be happy to guide you even further around some of the things via different channels. For now, I'm going to hand it back to Lieve. So Lieve, feel free to continue from here on.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. So this brings us to the next topic on our agenda, connectivity. And here we want to refer or talk a bit more on the integration between Magics and the new machine manager. And this connects users to their build processor so they can send project information and parameters easy to make successful builds. So Egwin, can you explain that a bit better, what this actually is, and how is this different from what people are currently using with the build processors?
Yeah, absolutely. So you already got a little bit of a sneak peek in the demo of Lawrence, of course. So by connecting Magics to the machine manager, we are offering now a cloud-based solution to manage your AM machine park and also connected build processes. So cloud-based working is inherently more collaboration friendly. So users no longer need to rely on one workstation for all the build preparation work. So sharing files and also your processing parameters with colleagues is also easier now. Plus, all the processing parameters and build files are now stored in the cloud, continuing the traceability factor as we mentioned earlier in this stage of your workflow. So gone are the days where you have multiple workstations that have various installations of build processes, with each using their own parameters. Now everyone uses the same central build processor with the same settings and parameters, and this also increasing your return on investment by always having a first-time right principle. But
yeah, and I can imagine that especially process engineers will love that they have an easy way to push new parameter sets and so on to the people who then actually have to apply them. Lawrence, can you just make it also a bit more tangible for us and then give us a look on how it feels in reality?
Most certainly, Lieve. So here we can see the build that we were previously staging, but in this case, we do have some supports attached to them. Now let's put ourselves indeed in the shoes of an AM manager, and we want to go ahead and send this build to the printer, but actually we've had an issue with a certain area on our EOS M290 machine, for instance, to carry further on the scenario that we had previously, that in a certain area we always achieve lower print quality. So of course, what we would like to ensure as an AM manager is that any future builds that we are going to do on the short term, avoid putting some parts in that specific area, as we know that these parts might need to be scrapped, and that can be quite easily a costly manner. So let's say that currently this machine we're using, and you can actually see that here if I quickly go into my settings, that we are currently connected to our Materialise machine manager. So we are connected to this environment. So if I go into my environment here, this is actually the machine that I currently have connected to. I can go ahead and I can make a change. So let's imagine in this scenario, I actually want to go ahead and add an additional no build zone in this area that I know that we have been experiencing some issues recently. And if I make a change from my Materialise machine manager, then any new projects that will begin using this build will immediately have these parameters or settings applied. But if I'm currently working in Magics, I will actually even get a pop-up at that moment that my machine parameter changes were applied. Do I want to go ahead and accept those? In this case, I do. And then you'll see that actually here we have this no build zone overlapping with the placement of one of our parts. So having this information at hand, I can simply go ahead and I can move my part out of that area to avoid having any lower part quality and having to scrap this part as a whole. So it's not only there, of course, that we have the ability to manage our machine information from the Materialise Machine Manager outside of the use of the no build zones. We can also manage any of the general machine information here to make sure that everybody is using the same dimensions, parameters, relevant information. But we can even go a little bit further, which is namely that we also have additional control over the different build strategies, both on a platform as well as on a part level. So you'll see that after any of these strategies that we define, we have the ability to also edit those parameters when it comes, for instance, to the hatching operations, the gap filling operations, any of the things that you would like to customize for your build processor that you're currently familiar with doing directly in Magics. You can actually set up from the Materialise Machine Manager so that anybody using this machine has access to the same strategies. And you'll see if I go back to Magics, I can define a strategy for my whole platform. I can define a strategy for my part as a whole by default, but I can also do that on an individual level where I have the ability to specify for a certain part, I want to use a different strategy than I may use for a different part. And similarly, I can do the same for my support structures. So what does this mean? You can, as an AM manager, make sure that you can set up your machine with the right information and the right parameters, and then make sure that this is consistently being followed by your employees as they have access to the information synchronized directly within Magics without them needing to maintain separate environments, which can quite easily become a little bit difficult to keep an overview on. So that's a quick example on the connection between the Materialise Machine Manager, the build processor, and Magics. So if you have any further questions on that, feel free to let us know via the chat, and I'm happy to dive a bit deeper into that. But for now, I will hand the word back to Lieve.
Thank you, Lawrence. So next up is automation, and another spotlight feature from the Magics update is the workflow automations first off-the-shelf script, namely smart labeling. So what is work automation at a very high level? So bottom line, it are scripts. They can be made by Materialise, they can be made by yourself, they can be made in cooperation. But the aim is to automate workflows during the data and build preparation. So the first one out there and available was created together with Protolabs. And just a quick quote from Christophe, who is there, the team lead at Protolabs. And I think this quote says it all, what this kind of automation tools can mean for your production. Labeling 20 parts takes just one person now, maybe 5 minutes. Before it was up to 2 hours for 2 people. And of course, that's not a lot of fun to do. So the team experiences less stress, uses their time for more challenging and interesting work that truly motivates them. Egwin, what else would you like to add onto this?
Yeah, so you're correct, Lieve. So the workflow automation is becoming a crucial part of a 3D printer service provider in their day-to-day workflow. It really increases the productivity of day-to-day mundane and labor-intensive tasks, like, for example, labeling, as mentioned here before by Christophe. So for complex builds, you can spend up to hours to get labels right, and even then, it's still prone to human errors. What about misspelled labels, unreadable labels because of wrong font and font size? This first off-the-shelf script will massively reduce that risk and also the error rate by also reducing the expensive failed builds as well using workflow automation. Another reason why this is so important to have that level of automation is training of new people. We recently done a study with over 600 companies, and training and onboarding of new people and finding skilled workforce was by far one of the biggest challenges we are facing in the industry right now. So providing that level of automation in your process will also enhance the onboarding of those new hires. You can get them started a lot faster due to the automation, and this will result in getting it first time right. It will also significantly increase the transfer of knowledge and also safeguarding your internal IP. Now, there's much more to say about this topic that we have scheduled a dedicated webinar on automation together with my colleague Koen Neusjes. So the webinar will take place at the 15th of June, and I would also all like to invite and register to join to know more. So here you can scan the QR code. This will lead you to a registration page. And if you can click, and we will also share the link in the chat if I recall correctly. And Koen and I already look forward to seeing you there the 15th of June.
Okay, perfect. Lawrence, you have inspired us with the demos on the new features. But of course, I understand in a demo, it goes a bit quickly. And you mentioned in the beginning, you have something up your sleeve so that we can make the transition to the new Magics as smooth as possible for our users. You're very deep into training. So what can our users expect from the update trainings?
Definitely. So indeed, as you can probably see on the screen right now as well, we are planning quite a few update trainings throughout the year, both online as well as in person. You will be able to find how you can register for these update trainings by either scanning the QR code on the screen right now or via one of the links that I'm sure we will share with you after the webinar as well. In our update trainings, which are available for free for any of our maintenance customers, we will go over the latest features as we have done today, but in further detail. But you'll also have the opportunity to play around with the software through some exercises and ask your questions directly to Materialise experts. So I think it's really a nice opportunity, which comes free of charge towards our maintenance customers. So I would definitely invite you to take a look at it. And should you have any questions about that still, then do feel free to reach out to us. Here you can see an example of some of the topics we might cover. So typically in the update trainings, we cover all the latest features, but we also take the time to answer questions our customers may have and give them the chance to play around with those new features.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. And I also noticed it's both live, online, different locations, different languages. So I hope we can reach as many of our customers as possible. To wrap up, I would like to give the word once more to Erwin. Well, before we go into the Q&A, so don't leave us yet. So as a wrap up, what would you say are the key or the 4 key takeaways from this session and what people should remember?
Yeah, thank you, Liv. So I want to address certain highlights again, what we're achieving with the new release of Magics. So automation is now part of Magics via scripting, and it's now possible to do so. Connectivity via CO-AM and the CO-AM machine manager integration. And this connectivity enables also end-to-end traceability from part preparation to printing. But last but certainly not least, all the changes that we've done under the hood made Magics an even more powerful tool as it was like before, like editing modes on platforms, the overall performance improvements and usability updates.
Thank you, Erwin, Lawrence, Tem, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. Also, I would like to thank the audience for staying with us for almost a full hour. If you're very eager to start experiencing yourself what's in Magics 27, I have here 2 QR codes. If you're a Magics user, that is a site where you can log in with your CC key and where you can immediately download it. If you're new to Magics and you're interested in what we have to offer you, you take the QR code on the right, where you can get a free download on that. So time for some Q&A, I would say. So let me see what my colleagues got ready or what they gathered for us. So the first question, of course, Erwin, you made some changes in the user interface from Magics 26 onwards, moving to 27. So there has been a bit restructuring. People sometimes have customized toolbars and so on. So can people automatically transfer that or not?
Well, it depends from what version that they are coming. We have since Magics 26 made some significant changes in the workflow and in the user interface indeed. So if you're upgrading from Magics 26 to later to Magics 27 and so on, you will be able to upgrade and import your UI settings. But if you're using previous versions like Magics 25 or 24, those user interface settings will not be compatible with the new version. So this is the gap that we have to bridge. So no from Magix 25, but from Magix 26 onwards, yes, it is possible.
Okay, thank you, Egwin. And then I think it can be interesting to join the training where we will definitely go through how to customize and where to find certain functionality. Yeah, Lawrence?
If I can add to that, then that's indeed what I wanted to mention. Through the upgrade trainings or also through talking to Materialise people, we can help you customize the UI to make it, let's say, more familiar as what you are used to in older versions, even though it would be with the new features of Magix 27. So there are definitely ways that we can help people like you.
Okay, thank you for that. I have another question. So there are some people interested in the CAT functionality, and they want to know, is that included in Magix, or is this an add-on on Magix?
Well, that's very easy. So the CAT functionality, the BREP functionality is available for every Magix RP user and is available for free. So it comes as standard. And what is also added since Magix 26 is that the step importer is also available now for everybody. So it is included in the standard functionality of Magix.
Okay, so every Magix users from Magix 26 onwards can import step, export it again, convert it, and have all these CAT functionality. Okay, that's clear. Lawrence, a very specific question to you. You in the demo earlier, you added a fillet and the support was removed. Why? Because the fillet has nothing to do with the support. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, as soon as you make a change to your geometry, to your parts in Magix, your supports will be removed because it might not be sufficient, the previous support, for the altered geometry of the part. If you want to avoid that, you could also, for instance, export your supports prior and re-import them, or you could also iterate on a copy of the part and afterwards choose to transfer your supports over. Further, there's also other ways you can customize the behavior of the supports. So if you have some questions around that, we can show you how you can work with that in different ways as well during the update trainings. But that's actually an intended behavior there, because we wouldn't want to use a support structure which hasn't been created for the altered geometry that you may have defined.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Another question that I think will be for you is, how can I import multiple parts by using the drag and drop method in the same scene?
Well, that's very easy to answer. So you can simply drag any of your parts into any scenes in Magix. So I know that that worked a little bit differently in 26, but in Magix 27, you can drag a selected part into the BREP mode, into the part scene, into the platform scene, anywhere you'd like. And you can simply do that by either going to your file explorer, selecting your parts and simply dragging them in, or you could also use the options from Magix to choose to import parts and then choose multiple parts simultaneously. But it is really quite straightforward to drag and drop. So let us know should you have any questions, but it should be rather intuitive in this release.
So Egwin, maybe this one is for you. Can we still use our existing BPs when using the new machine manager, or are they automatically transferred to the new environment?
That's a good question. So the machine manager and the existing BPs that you're using at this moment can run right next to each other. So the machine manager is using build processes. We call them the next generation of build processes based on the new architecture. So you will either have your BP functionality, your existing BPs at this moment installed in Magix, and the machine manager next to it with new BPs. So they're not ported anyway automatically because they're two different build processes. One question from the beginning about and I hope I pronounced this, Chin Bao Zhao, is the version of 27 improved in recognizing step files with internal channels? So yes. So Magix 27 comes with an upgraded version of ModConvert as well, and there we have made specific improvements on improving and recognizing internal channels. So I really suggest to upgrade your ModConvert as well together with the installation of Magix 27.
Okay, well, maybe Egwin, one last question for you. what are you most excited about in Magics 27 in this release?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. It depends on what your focus is, of course. So if you're a core Magics user at this moment, I do think that the added tools on BREP make a significant change in productivity, for example. We have made some significant changes also in rendering and calculating. Working with large data, for example, is also significantly improved. So I do know that people were asking for this as well. If you take more like an overview on the connectivity, the integration with CoEM is a game changer, making sure that you have visibility on the changes that you've done, importing your files and then your MES solution. That's definitely a game changer. So for sure, I'm excited about a lot of things. I can definitely have a new webinar about all this, but there are absolutely some seriously improvements in Magic Says for all type of users.
Okay, thank you, team. I see we still get some very practical questions on how to do what in Magics, but for that, I would really like to refer our users to the update trainings. There we can really take more time to to take you deeper into all the details, and we are happy to welcome you back there. And okay, Erwin, I see in the chat you want to have a spoiler for next release already.
Well, yeah, I saw just a question popping up. Will dark mode or the visual style ever make a return to Magics? Well, yes. We're working on this really hard at this moment, so I would say stay tuned for our next webinar, for the next versions of Magics that we're working on, because yes, we will integrate this in our next versions as well.
Okay, so something to look forward to already, but first get Magics 27 in your fingers, I would say. As said, it's recorded, so you can still look at some other things. If you're a user and you like some further help, reach out to us, to the update trainings or to our support teams, our application engineers. I know my colleagues are very looking forward to help you out and make Magics 27 your new data prep home. So see you next time around, maybe in the workflow automation webinar or somewhere at the fair. Thank you for staying with us in this webinar, and till the next occasion. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.